Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
You will know if you're a redneck if your hometown's department store mannequin in the front window is chewing tobacco. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. And we need a patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance on this Wednesday. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you on this Wednesday, September 26th, and, of course, Zeb at the Ranch. And we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a big fall tire sale going on right now. And along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
You the man.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, Wheels. And right now, let's scoot to the weather forecast. And that's brought to everybody by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. It's right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss it. Roger and the crew, they've got all the tools, the best of tools and equipment for you for long or short-term lease. And I urge you, if you don't know what you need, stop in and ask them. They'll explain the whole thing to you and make sure you get what you need. And if you can't run in there, just give them a call at 678-3122, K&R Rental in Heyburn. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Going to be a nice day as we hit midweek. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Expecting sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice and calm, high of 72. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 43. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 78, a light breeze out of the southwest, right around 5 miles an hour. Tomorrow night, clear skies with a low of 45. As we look ahead towards Friday, expecting sunny skies, high of 80, overnight low of 48. By Saturday, mostly sunny and 82. Then for Sunday, temperature's going to drop a little bit. Mostly sunny skies and 72, and by Monday, mostly sunny and 74. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Well done, Gina, as always. Thank you very much. And Roger and the crew over at K&R Rental, they urge you to stop in to rent the best of tools and equipment. They've got everything. I mean, look at when you drive by that whole front area just covered with everything you might need at K&R Rental. They get there early in the morning at 7 o'clock to serve you on the Burley-Paul Highway, 678-3122. We've got a really good program this morning with a lot of very knowledgeable people in all respects. First of all, at 9:06 this morning, we're going to have Dave Bigo on the air again from Indianapolis, Indiana. And then at 9:30, we've kind of changed the segments this morning, and we probably won't do this again like this, but it fit more into his schedule. We're going to have an hour-long segment from 9:30 to 10:30 discussing Proposition 2. Now, as I said the other day, Yesterday we had Prop 1 on, and today we're going to discuss the benefits, pro and con, of Prop 2, and that's the Medicaid issue. Then at 10:30 this morning, we've got Dr. Warren Farrell coming on the program. So lots of really good people coming on the show today, including talking about all of our great advertisers like Ramsey Heating and Electric. And they have all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. That's not bragging. That is absolutely a fact. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the number to call and the number to remember, and if you want to call in and say, I need this, this, and this, can you please have it ready? I'm in a big hurry. They'll have it on the counter waiting for you. 678-0459. They've been in business over 6 decades. Wow. And they open the doors early in the morning at 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. We welcome phone calls here this morning, and the lines are open, and the number 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While we have just a minute, I want to remind you, too, I'm sorry, I'm sucking on a cough drop here this morning. I have to swallow every now and then. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner. Thomas and the entire crew over there, wow, the food delicious, and what great menu choices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, anytime, all the time you want to stop in there. And, of course, a great, great friendly staff. That's where we have, once a month, our Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and that's a Denny's Restaurant. I urge you to stop in and enjoy a delicious meal today at 611 North Overland in Burley, and they also have another one located at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant, it is America's Diner. You know, I probably am going to say what you feel, and I am totally fed up with the denigration and the destruction and the absolute obliteration of common sense that's going on in Washington, D.C., if they ever had any back there. I thought about this a lot last night, and I would urge you to give me a call and give me your response. Why, simple question, why waste the time and the energy and the money to provide all of this information at the hearing tomorrow? Why? When all the votes are already known. You know that the liberal left, the Democrats, are not going to give Kavanaugh any reckoning whatsoever or any kind of a fair shake to get the nomination to the Supreme Court. You know that people like Jeff Flake and a couple other rhino Republicans probably are not going to be swayed in their vote. Flake absolutely can't stand Donald Trump, and there's a Republican right there that absolutely rhino, in name only, Republican, Jeff Flake, that I think is going to be a problem. So really, when you think about that, why? Why are we wasting the time and the effort and the money and the Kavanaugh family absolutely being just laid on the railroad tracks for the Democrats to drive the train over them? Why? You know, why not just vote and have Mitch McConnell demand, we're going to vote 2 o'clock, that's it, it's over, done, no more harassment. But I've got a feeling, and it's kind of like an itch, okay, that can't be scratched because it won't go away. I've got a feeling that this debacle tomorrow is going to blow up in everyone's faces. There is already talk that the woman that they are going to bring in from Arizona, Maricopa County, that's going to act with the questions that the attorneys for Ms. Ford are, oh no, well, we're not so sure about this. We've got questions, we've got concerns and worries. I see another huge delay tactic on the horizon. What are your thoughts? Call, good morning, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
This Kavanaugh thing is not going to be settled by politicians. It's going to be settled by the people that get out there and vote. And if they vote the wrong way, they get what they deserve. And that's where it's at. It's not with the politicians. It's going to be up to the people themselves to decide what they want.
That may be all well and true, Tony, and I would agree with you. And the vote in November, oh my goodness, I can't emphasize enough that the midterm elections are so important, so drastically important. I just think our nation is in chaos. I think our nation is in chaos right now, and we've got to vote with a good, clear conscience of where we want to go in November. If you want to go down the left road for the chaos and the stupidity and the fear and the socialism, then you go ahead and vote Democrat. If you want to vote for some common sense to put this country on conservative values or any kind of values, you'd better not vote for Democrats.
Well, what's going to happen tomorrow is a waste of time because it's not going to solve anything.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I think all it's going to do is create sleazy, dirty TV.
Oh, absolutely. This country, Zeb, is right at that. It's on the edge of the cliff right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And lose our country.
I agree, Tony, and with your age and common sense, I appreciate and respect your values. Thank you so much for your call. By the way, how's Mary doing?
Oh, she's doing fine, and we happened to be listening to the radio yesterday, and when you brought up the thing about Mary, we got a big kick out of that.
May I warn you about something? Does she have a cast on that arm?
Yeah, she's got a small one on now, so I have to be careful about what I do.
I would suggest that you keep your mouth closed tightly and just say yes, ma'am, to anything she wants.
That's one heck of a club.
Tony, God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, take care. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk about this chaos in this country in just a moment. More calls are welcome. But first of all, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. You know, high school sports is in full swing, and, they're going to get their aches and pains and bruises and sprains and everything else, and they know the best place to get the treatment is Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. And by the way, for all of us recouping from surgery or an accident, the place to go with the best of excellent physical therapists, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Also with that hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in this entire area. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, and the number to call, I urge you to call, is 678-1191. You give them a call today. They can, and they will help you. By the way, caller, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Sophie's Cookies. I should say Sophie's Chatterbox. And every Monday, we give away a dozen cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, what a delicious restaurant. Oh, what a great bakery with all the pies and the cookies and the they make wedding cakes, and I've seen pictures of them. They are absolutely beautiful. You be sure and get a hold of them today. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
And not only good baked goods, they serve a fantastic breakfast.
Oh, yes.
They do.
All right, go ahead.
Good coffee, too.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I feel that she's not going to show.
You honestly feel that way, huh?
I honestly do.
Well, I'm not going to argue with a dear friend because you want to know the truth. I've extended the odds even more in what you're saying in your favor. I honestly believe that at the 11th hour tomorrow morning, here's what I've got in my mind's eye. Doug, tell me if I'm wrong. I've got a picture in my mind's eye of the legal team walking into that room and sitting down at the microphone and saying, Mr. Chairman, our client at this time feels that they cannot get a fair hearing, and she is not going to participate at this time.
Well, that's probably how it's going to turn out, or they're going to make a demand tomorrow morning that cannot be met, which would be just outlandish.
Yeah.
And then say we're not going to show because of this. Reason my thinking she's not going to show, and, you know, everybody else has an opinion, and I'd like to hear some, is that for she's going to go in there and go under oath to say this is fact, and if she is lying to the Senate, she can be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Where she's coming in under oath. And she knows that. Her lawyers know that. And the lawyers that she has, one of them is McCabe's lawyer.
Yes.
So, and the other one was a lawyer on Donald Trump and was against Broderick and all those gals that accused, not Trump, I meant Clinton.
Clinton.
And accused Clinton of all of his sex crimes.
Mm-hmm.
He was on Clinton's team.
This situation is nothing more, honestly, this is how I feel. This is nothing more than absolute bawdy television. It's a cesspool. There's not a soap opera. There's not a television show in prime time that could be sleazier than what's going to be on television tomorrow. And I don't care what network it is that's going to be carrying it or disseminating what's being said or not said. It's all going to be sleaze TV. And you know, really, when it all comes down to brass tacks, a family that has two little girls are going to be sitting there, and they're going to be on an island that absolutely all the sharks, namely being Democrats and liberals, and even, did you read this morning's paper? Teenage girls in Boise, Idaho, sent a letter of support to Ms. Ford and condemned Kavanaugh. We haven't heard the facts yet.
Teenage girls?
Yeah.
You think they're being influenced by some parents?
Do you think?
When I was a teenager, I could care less what was going on in Washington, D.C. I was just thinking about school and how I could get out of it and how I could go hunting.
I could not believe this when I read this 4-column story this morning with the headline that says, teens reach out to Kavanaugh accuser from Boise area. And my goodness, I just thought, these are, and they're 15 years of age. And they haven't heard the facts. They haven't heard any of the testimony. They haven't heard any of the pros and the cons from either side of the testimony. How can you condemn the Kavanaugh family when you don't know the facts? And I'll even go a step further on this. A law school, now this will drive you nuts. Yale Law School yesterday dismissed 31 classes, over 2,000 students, so they could go protest Kavanaugh and condemn him. These are law students that supposedly are being taught the equal balance scales of justice, that they need to know all the facts. But they left school yesterday, 2,000 of them, to go condemn him. What is going on here?
Yeah, and these are law students that are going to be lawyers, are going to be congressmen in the future, and yet they are going to school to learn the law, and they haven't yet got the class that says innocent until proven guilty.
Right there, Doug, is a premise, and caller number 2, I'm coming, I'll be right with you, is a premise of what I think is going to be thrown away in our society. Our judicial principles have always been, you are innocent until proven guilty. There is none of this garbage, and that's what it is, that says, you, Doug Martin, we're going to allegate against you and say you did this, but now it's your duty to prove that you're innocent. That's not right, Doug.
No. Like I said yesterday, they're taking a page out of the playbook of the IRS.
Absolutely.
The IRS comes out, and you've got to prove that you did it right.
Well, I tell you what, we've got another call waiting, and I know we're going to have a lot of spirited conversation on this. Doug, go ahead and quickly, senior centers, what's going on?
Let's just take care of them. Let's support them. Let's rent their facilities for family parties, business parties, and it'll help them out. And go there and eat.
All right.
I'll tell you what, you will be enlightened by the conversation and the people you meet.
Amen to that. Doug, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. Caller number 2, don't go away. I promise I'm on the way. I want to remind everybody at Ramsey Heating and Electric, they're very proud to offer service you can trust along with Lennox products that help keep you comfortable and possibly save you money. This fall, Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering up to $1,600 in rebates on qualifying equipment purchases. So call them today and find out more at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. Ramsey Heating and Electric, over 60 years of serving you. And don't forget, too, on Tuesdays, boy, I tell you, I'm just really high on these folks. Great service, great people. Stoats Equipment Company with the Ag Minutes at 9:46 on Tuesdays. Your John Deere dealer, Stoats Equipment Company, at 119 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today because, boy, it's the truth. They make your life easier at Stoats Equipment Company. Caller, I am sorry. Thank you. Go ahead. Caller, good morning. Wheels, is there a call on the line or not?
Yes, sir. Keith should be there.
All right, caller, good morning. I can't wait any longer. Are you there? No. All right. Evidently, you don't have one of the buttons up or something. For some reason, he's not coming through. And we'll take another call. Is that call for us? Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. This is a joke, but I'm not laughing. What's going on over there, my friend Wheels?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you?
There we go. We have you on the air, finally. Good morning. What's your thoughts, Riley?
Well, I just called in. It wasn't me you was asking for, but my thought on this is I would sure like to be able to go back and address those people back east. I know they're not going to listen to little old me from little Idaho, but, you know, they're not pulling anything over the public's eye. We see what's going on here. We know that this is just a blockade to try and get so the Democrats are in party. Well, I hate to say it anymore, but it doesn't seem like it's that much better when the Republicans are in power because they don't do anything. They're too scared. That's why Trump was voted for. That's why I voted for him, because he wasn't a politician. He didn't care about us stepping on toes or making somebody mad. He got in there because he's concerned about us, the Americans.
Absolutely.
People who make things great. And you know what? I'm sorry about Kavanaugh. I wish they could get him in because he seems like the same kind of person. But if the Republicans and the people we elect east are not going to do their job, guess what? They're going to lose their jobs. I'm sick and tired of it as an American. I really, really am. And as a citizen in this country, it's embarrassing to have this go on the public stage for the world.
Yep.
About all this crap that doesn't exist going on. What's enough is enough, and when can we stand up and say, you know what, Balderdash, get out. We're done.
I think you've summed it up, Riley, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think you've been very succinct in your remarks, and I'm fed up with this chaos. I'm set up with this garbage. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, and it's a very poor picture of America today. Thank you.
They're setting up the students in law school to pull this kind of crap when they're in there.
Yeah, I know it. Exactly. The liberalism and the letting go of 2,000 students out of their classes yesterday that are law students, and they should understand that there has to be the testimony, there has to be the declaration by a jury, etc., of guilty or not guilty. This whole thing is so ridiculous, I can't believe it. Anyway, Riley, I got to run. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Caller number 2, if you're there, speak up loudly, please.
Hi, she's on the air, sir.
Where is she? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bell.
Yes. I don't know what's going on over there, but we're having a hard time trying to get our calls on the air for some reason this morning. Good morning, Donna. How are you? Oh, for heaven's sakes. Wheels, would you please tell me what's going on over there this morning?
The phone lines are being crazy this morning.
Well, let's get somebody on the air right now, please. Thank you. I have no idea. I apologize. I'm not running the outfit, but here we go. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, you at last.
Well, I was beginning to think that it's, I don't know. I'm not going to make any more comments. Hopefully we got the problem figured out. Go ahead.
Okay, this little, excuse me, this little deal they're going to have tomorrow the senators have their little 5-minute spiel, is going to be nothing but a 5-minute paid commercial for Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and Gillibrand. Do you agree?
When it comes to Kamala Harris and Booker and the others, Gillibrand, there's no question in my mind that it's going to be a utilization of the public airwaves on television to do all of self-promotion and make them look very theatrical and, quite frankly, just nothing more than a pat on their back. I could not agree with you more.
What is the reasoning for this presentation? They've had, 2-3 weeks now to figure this thing out? Is this like a closing statement in a court case or something?
Well, and here's something. And caller number 2, don't go away. It's hard enough to get in. You better stay where you are. Here's something to consider. There's one person that I'm holding in complete contempt this morning, and her name is not coming to the forefront like it should for being the rabble-rouser and the troublemaker initially, and that's Dianne Feinstein. I find that woman to be so repulsive for having this letter, having this information back in July when they could have done the accreditation of the letter and also the accuser, and this didn't have to come to this position. Dianne Feinstein, to me, is absolutely a worthless individual in politics that should leave.
She should be prosecuted for obstruction of justice, and that is putting it straight.
I have no argument with that. I just think that when something of this magnitude, the accusation that is going to destroy possibly a family, a person's career, a person's friendships, a person's job in the future, how can you sit on something like that and use it as an 11th hour grandstand technique? I don't understand that.
I don't understand why the Democrats just don't come out and be honest with the American people.
That'd be a first.
Say, we're going to stall. We're going to stall, and we're always going to stall as long as Trump is president. Story.
Stall and with chaos. Those two words, stall and with chaos. Keith, very well put together. I agree. Thank you very much for your call this morning. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's good to be heard. Thank you. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. I promise. Don't go away. Do not pass go. I will not leave. I promise. Barry Equipment and Rental Sales Service and Parts, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan. There is a sharp young guy. And believe me, every time we get him on the air, we always learn something. And then another location at 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls with Eli and the Nampa location. Now, they've got the big Doosan equipment, and I'll tell you what, that is big, heavy equipment that could get the job done. The Doosan loaders, everything. Then, of course, you know they've got all the Bobcat excavators in all shapes and sizes for sale and for rent. Don't know how to run one? Not to worry. They can teach you. They can sandbox right out behind the business, and they will take you out there, and you will be just like a pro. You'll learn how to run it. Go home, get the job done. You're going to be a happy camper. Barry Equipment and Rental. And they're located in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
You betcha, Mr. Bell.
Well, I think I talked to you once a few minutes ago, didn't I?
Yeah, and I think you were scared of me because you hung up on me.
I do not do the hanging up or the answering, so don't blame me. Thank you.
Now, you know, Mr. Bell, Zeb, I am so sick of all the shenanigans going on in Washington. Actually, the travesty that's going on in Washington. If this woman, and maybe somewhere down the line she has been abused or raped or whatever, and I feel for her. I really do. As a woman, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But to accuse a man who has such a impeccable reputation, honoring women and supporting women and giving them a chance in life, and then not even remember where it happened, when it happened, or who was there.
Donna, if you or I made an allegation or an accusation against someone, and here's the deal. You or I call into the police station 36 years later, or we call into a radio station 36 years later. This person did this to me. Okay, when did it happen? Well, 36 years ago. Where did it take place? I can't remember. Well, who was involved? Well, I'm not sure. Were you drinking? Well, yeah, I was inebriated. I mean, I'd throw that thing so far down in the file 13 trash can, you can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be laughed out of off the phone. And as far as the Democrats on this issue, you and I both know the reason why they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
They're thinking that they're going to win the House and the Senate back. And you know what? If some of these dadgum Republicans don't get their heads out of their where, they're going to succeed, and then we're going to be right back where we were 2 years ago.
That's the bottom line right there, Donna, and I am so afraid. I've heard people talking in various places, at restaurants, etc. I remember a conversation not too long ago between two women I overheard. They just basically, I'll give you a summation. I don't think I'm going to go vote because none of them are any good. I just think I'm just going to stay home. That's the kind of attitude the Democrats want. They don't want you to go vote. They don't want you to vote against them. They want the sleaze to take over power again.
Yes, they do. And, these uninformed voters need to get real serious. If they want the freedoms that they've been given so far, if they want those back, they're going to have to get out and vote for the right people. And the Democrats that are behind this doctor, when the truth all comes out, they need to be prosecuted from the top clear to the bottom.
I couldn't agree more.
Because they went against the Constitution.
Well, not only that, but they have committed an assassination of a man's character. Now, yes. I do not know. Here's something to consider, too, and I'm going to be I'm going to give equal opportunity on this. I have not heard the testimony, of course, from Ms. Ford, nor have you. I have heard Kavanaugh on many occasions. I have a lot of respect for the man, and I think he's a straight shooter. With the body language, the eye contact, and everything that I've seen and heard, I think he's telling the truth. I said last week on Tuesday, and I wrote this down on a headline on my notepad, that if I'm wrong, I will apologize on the air. I honestly don't think I'm going to have to make that apology.
I don't either. If she was really serious about this, she would have come forward a long time before now.
I agree.
There's all kinds of indications that, the delays, the demands, and now that they've hired a woman prosecutor who prosecutes sex crimes, is going to do the interview, now they're saying that they can't bring outside counsel in. Well, she didn't want to testify in front of men. What the heck is the problem?
I think what they did, and I've got another call waiting, Donna, but I think what they did in bringing this woman in from Arizona was absolutely the best way to handle this. I think it's going to be fair for both sides, and I'm sick and tired of the Democrats sitting back, whining like a little puppy, and it's just and the only reason that puppy's whining is because it just peed on the floor, quite frankly, and that's the Democrats, in my opinion.
I think you're right, and I'm going to be watching this thing go on tomorrow. I usually don't watch TV during the day, but I'm really interested to see what is going to happen to the people that are behind this travesty.
I agree, Donna. Thank you. I'm glad we finally got you on the air this morning.
Yeah, good enough.
Okay.
Hey, have a good day, my friend.
Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Minnecasia Hearts for Seniors. This is a wonderful idea, and a wonderful lady heads it up by the name of Holly Rowe. If you're a senior and you want to stay at home, but you need some personal assistance, whether it's with daily tasks in the home or maybe your meal preparation, boy, I need that now anyway, personal hygiene, light housekeeping, call them, Minnecasia Hearts for Seniors. Seniors at 135 East 23rd Drive in Burley. The number 312-5715. I want to urge you to call them. They want to help you. 312-5715 or go to holly@heartsforseniors.net. Caller, good morning, and thank you for your patience.
Yes, Ed. I feel this dang circus of Democrats back in the East are out after you and me. And the only people that are standing between them is President Trump and people like Kavanaugh. And I really think we need them in office real bad. I think they're just absolutely a needed commodity to protect the people of this country from the sleaze and crap that the Democrats are putting on.
Jerry, let me ask you, and I'm going to ask you to be very, very fair here for a moment. I just said that if I am wrong about the allegations and this accusation from this woman, I said I would apologize, and I will do that. I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think any of this is dishonest as far as what Kavanaugh has said. I think he's led a very admirable life. He's been leading a life of helping others and sitting on the court and has done an outstanding job. And then all of a sudden at the last minute, all of this sleaze and some of the things I heard yesterday, Jerry, I'm not even going to repeat on my program this morning. All this sleaze comes rushing down the gutter at the 11th hour. What is a person supposed to think?
Well, I know what I think. I think the Democrats are out to destroy this country any way, anyhow, any shape that they can. They're horrible people, and I'm just about to the point where I don't even want to know them. They're just terrible, terrible people in general. I don't think there's one good Democrat in this country anymore. They're just everything they can do to destroy, disrupt, ruin, stop, they do it.
Well, I'm not going to say that there's not any good Democrats left in the country, Jerry. I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say this that I think you'll agree with. I wish that those that don't agree with what the Democratic Party, like the Schumers and others, are doing, I wish they would speak out against those people so that at least we would know they're not all following in lockstep like lemmings going over a cliff.
Well, I will go along with you in the fact that there's probably some good Democrats out there. I know a few I think are great people. But I sure do not like their attitude towards this country. I sure do not like their attitude toward what's happening in our government. You know, they didn't fund the wall again. And to me, that's just out and out letting the druggers in and the illegal aliens, and there's just too many of them.
I agree. Jerry, I've got a weather forecast to get in here, but you are always welcome on the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
Yes.
All right, sir.
May the Lord bless you and your whole audience.
I appreciate it, Jerry. Thank you. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Just hang on 60 seconds. I'll be right there. I got to remind everybody about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. The lovely Dr. Christine Pickup and Dr. Courtney Mitchell, they are absolutely skilled and compassionate audiologists that want to help you with your hearing health, and they will. They're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and I urge you right now to call this number, 312-0957, for a hearing screening today. Don't put it off, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Going to be a nice day as we hit midweek. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Expecting sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice and calm, a high of 72. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 43. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 78, a light breeze out of the southwest, right around 5 miles an hour. Tomorrow night, clear skies with a low of 45. As we look ahead towards Friday, expecting sunny skies, high of 80, overnight low of 48. By Saturday, mostly sunny and 82. Then for Sunday, temperature's going to drop a little bit. Mostly sunny skies and 72, and by Monday, mostly sunny and 74. That's a look at your weather. For Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, wonderful people. Believe me, you can trust your hearing health to Mount Harrison Audiology. The number to call to make an appointment for a hearing screening and let them help you, 312-0957. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning. You know, Zeb, I was born in Iowa. I was back there visiting relatives and cousins and aunt and uncle. I have one aunt and uncle left. You know, it was 94 degrees a week ago Monday, and the humidity was very sticky. And, you know, I come back here, nice and cool, low humidity. Boy, you know, this is really God's country, in my opinion, and we don't have the tornadoes they have back there as well. Since I've had a relative, my aunt was killed in a tornado.
Okay, Adrian, let's roll with what you need to get on the air. I've got calls waiting. Quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so the whole deal is like your previous caller and what you've been saying, it's all about the New World Order trying to destroy this country, and they're using the mainstream media, the Democratic Party, way they can, full idiots, and a lot of these, certainly these college kids. Like I say, I have a professor that teaches civics and history in a college here in Idaho, gives a pretest to the kids that are coming out of school, high school, and they're all good little green socialists. They've been and, you know, it's just really sad, our educational system being what it is. But, you know, for Ted Cruz or anybody else to go out to dinner and then to be harassed by these people, it is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't think you and I, you know, we're similar age, and I'll tell you, I don't think we would have ever imagined anything like this. But you know, we've got to stand up for the constitutional principles, and that's, we need to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire. But I have to admit, I've lost what little respect I had for the Democratic Party when you have a Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and that, I mean, it's just unbelievable that these people can talk out of both sides of their mouth, supposedly representing the downtrodden and so forth in this country, and then they turn around and do everything they can to keep them on welfare and to keep them on public assistance of some sort so that they will be good little Democratic voters. And, of course, we need to build the wall, bringing in this I got to bring up this whooping cough thing, because even PBS, Zeb, maybe you missed it, has said that the whooping cough is coming back in this country, and it's coming in with the illegal aliens coming across out of Mexico.
Yep. I know it is, and I agree with you, and I'm going to be talking a little bit tomorrow about vaccination programs, and I'm glad you brought that up, but I've got to run. I've got another commercial to do, but everything you said is spot on. I agree with. Adrian, thank you for your call this morning. Thank you.
Have a good day.
God bless. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric, very proud to offer service you can trust. That is a fact. Over 60 years in business serving you with the Lennox products that can help keep you comfortable. Don't forget, call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459, and they can offer up to $1,600 in rebates on qualifying equipment purchases. You can find out more. Call them today, 678-0459, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Calls are welcome and appreciated, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to just say this. The crazy feminist movement in this country, they came out yesterday and they just absolutely attacked viciously Mrs. Kavanaugh, and basically were condemning her for not leaving her husband. I mean, I heard some of this rhetoric and some of this absolute ridiculous, crazy verbiage, and I thought, what in the world? And then, of course, you hear what they did to Ted Cruz and his wife at a restaurant in D.C. the other night. Literally, they had to get up and leave. And then Yale Law School lets 31 classes out yesterday so over 2,000 students could go and protest Kavanaugh and condemn him. Ladies and gentlemen, the platform of the Democrats, in my own humble opinion, is nothing more than create chaos, put a check mark behind it, stupidity, put a check mark there, and, of course, spread fear all across the nation, put another check mark, create socialism in this country, put another check mark, single-payer insurance, put a check mark behind that, open borders, put a check mark behind that, and promote drug usage in this country to the point where our borders are open. Here they come, and we've got such a drug abuse problem with the opioids and everything. It's absolutely terrible. Is that the Democratic mantra and platform? Prove me wrong. And then create chaos like what's going on over this Supreme Court nomination. Who in their right mind would want to sit down at the kitchen table with their spouse and their children and say, I want to run for that particular office and or job, knowing that the left is going to come after you and create a political theater that is going to have you as the star and denigrate you, tear into your personality, condemn you, berate your family and you. I mean, why? This could be the complete elimination of politics and running for something you want to stand on and believe in this country. If the left doesn't like you, they're going to shred you up in little pieces and throw you to the dogs. Prove me wrong. Let's give a great big shout out to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, with a big fall tire sale going on right now at all 7 locations. The best of tires. I emphasize that. The best of tires. All the tread designs, all the sizes for you, your vehicle, your car, SUV, trucks, whatever you've got. They've got the tires for you. And at prices that you can't afford to pass up. I urge you to get in there and see them today. Along with that, the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more, but primarily the best in service to you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. A couple of quick stories. America's Dad. Yeah, that's what he used to be called at one time. America's Dad is now sitting in an 8x12 cell in prison for at least 3 years for being a convicted sex predator. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. Left the courtroom in handcuffs yesterday. And I got to tell you, I lost any respect that was ever left for the comedian. And his spokesperson said the dumbest thing yesterday after they escorted Bill Cosby out of the courtroom and to prison. The spokesman said that Cosby was a victim to the legal system that has treated blacks unfairly forever. And that just made me sick, and it made me mad. Bill Cosby is a convicted criminal. Bill Cosby is a convicted felon for what he did to these women. Many women. And then to have his spokesman say that he's a victim to the legal system, unbelievably dumb. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, there's another bill that walks free, and he's every bit as guilty as Bill Cosby. and then, because he is who he is, we let him walk. And, it's just these kinds of injustices infuriate the American people because, if I don't pay my speeding ticket and it gets long enough, you know what they're going to do? They pull me over, they're going to cuff me and take me to jail.
Absolutely. It's just that
we know he's a predator, Bill Clinton. And so it's just like Keith Ellison. Nobody's bringing up what he's done, but we're going to beat Kavanaugh down to a pulp.
Yeah. Well, I brought it up 2 weeks ago. I started on Keith Ellison, a Muslim congressman from Minnesota, and I find him appalling. Randy, I've got to run. I'm running late. Old buddy, call earlier. I'd love to visit with you. I'm going to give 30 seconds at the most to caller number 2. Quickly, you're on the air real fast. Sum it up.
Yeah, in regards to Bill Cosby, when he goes to prison, if they put him in with the General Assembly or whatever with all the other inmates, I would predict that he will not live long because these people who are hardened criminals, bank robbers, things like that, they don't like pedophiles, and so I would be fearing for his life.
Well, he wasn't convicted of pedophilia at all. That's one thing that he was not convicted of. I got to run, Keith, but I appreciate your call. I got to run. Thank you. News next from CBS. I'll be back in 7. I couldn't help but comment on that story about the squirrel chewing through the wire at CSI in Twin. Whoa! I'll bet you that squirrel ended up like that cat on Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation. Sorry, PETA. Anyway, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with a great big fall tire sale right now. And some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's have this good word for Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. I urge you to give them a call. Get on the route service once a week, just right on time. They will be there. Get rid of your garbage. Absolutely, you can depend on Western Waste. We've been using their service for many, many years. I urge you to do the same. Call them at 734-6969. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Want to remind you, too, don't forget on Thursdays tomorrow at 9:17, our friends at Cassia Regional Hospital. I'm talking about dedicated medical experts serving you and your family and your friends and neighbors at Cassia Regional Hospital. We learn so much about visiting with them in the various departments. I urge you to tune in tomorrow at 9:17 and listen to more about your Cassia Regional Hospital. Also, some really dear friends of ours that we want to say thank you for all they do, and that's, of course, the great folks over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff serving you and your family. You know, it's a very solemn responsibility they have to provide families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, number to remember, 436-5636. And remember this, too, Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. A dear friend, and I have the utmost respect for this man as a businessman and as a friend. Good morning, Dave Bego. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. I'm doing well, and I want to give you a happy birthday wish ahead of time.
Now, how in the world did you know that?
Zeb, I know everything.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll bow to the throne of Bigo. I tell you what. Yeah, my birthday's next Tuesday, and I was just absolutely sitting here with my mouth hanging agape because I didn't know you knew that.
Yep, I knew it was next Tuesday.
Oh, my goodness.
October 2nd.
That's when the old get really crusty old. So, Wheels, we need you to turn Mr. Bigo up a little bit, please, and then ride the gain. Dave, one of the things, so many of the things that I want to talk to you about this morning, but right now we are seeing, in my opinion, American politics at its worst. It's the sleaziest, dirtiest I've ever seen and heard. I don't think politically we can ever recover for a long, long time with the divide and the sleaze that's been promoted through this Kavanaugh hearing.
Well, there's no doubt it's continuing to divide the country, and we're going to have a hard problem with it. And but the Republican Party and Republicans need to get out and vote here in November to make sure we keep the House and Senate, because if not, we're going to see it dive even further, because as I've told you many times, I believe that they're trying to take this country down and make it into a socialistic, communistic country. And to back up what I was saying, Zeb, I got an article yesterday, came out from Dr. James Dobson, and he basically says he warned Christians that if they neglect their duty to vote in November's midterm elections, they will likely lose their freedom, giving way to a socialist takeover sweeping America.
Yep.
And he says socialism will replace freedom and free enterprise. And he says, God help us if you and I fail to fulfill our moral responsibility to get out and vote.
I have and have had all through my life of following Dr. James Dobson and his principles and his writings and his broadcasts, the utmost respect for that man. And I just absolutely, I think everything he said is absolutely what's going to happen. Dave, there is a terminology that is used.
Stuff with the SEIU, and they're the leaders behind the scene of what all this stuff that's going on. And it's interesting, as we even yesterday here in Indianapolis, we had Indy janitors downtown picketing and protesting a major building downtown. And it wasn't they weren't going after the political end, but they got their contracts coming up and they're going to be renegotiating that. But it's the fact that they're doing this just shows you that they're trying to stir things up for the election too. It's part of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. Dave, the terminology called the deep state, and there's been a book written with the same title. But what really, in your opinion, I've got my own opinion, but I'd like to hear yours, what is the deep state and what is to be feared about the deep state taking over and gaining more power back on the Potomac?
Well, the deep state is basically people that don't believe in our country. They don't believe America's great. They don't believe in our free market society, capitalistic society, and they, quite honestly, these are people that they're egotistical, and all they want to do is control us. And they look at it and look in the mirror and say, we need to take this country down and control it and run it and make it a socialistic country. And that's why they go out and say all these things to people, promise things, oh, you're going to make more money, you're going to get this and this and that and all this stuff, because they know a lot of these people are easily brainwashed out there. And at the end of the day, if they do what they want to do, we'll become another Venezuela.
Absolutely. Could you believe that before any of the facts are out regarding the accuser as to whether or not there's any validity there whatsoever, that Yale Law School yesterday dismissed over 31 classes and over 2,000 students so they could go protest Judge Kavanaugh and condemn him. These are law students that are supposed to look at the pros and the cons and the fair and the equal. What happened?
Well, the problem is behind the scenes, the deep state, the people that couldn't bring down this country in World War II and in our war with the Soviet Union and all that, they are out to. They've been, infiltrating our education system for the last 30 or 40 years and brainwashing people, and telling people, it's so much better to be in a socialistic society and all that, and they've got so many people believing in this now that when things come up like this with Trump or with Kavanaugh, people they see as a real threat to them, turning us into a socialistic country, they say, okay, get out and protest these people, and the basics are that our education system behind the scenes have been infiltrated by the left, and they're controlling it.
Could you, I'm going to ask you kind of a personal question here, Dave, but could you have maintained your composure and your temper the way that Ted Cruz did the other night at that D.C. restaurant, when there he is at a restaurant with his wife, trying to enjoy a dinner for two and just kind of relax a little bit, and in comes all the leftist protesters condemning him, damning him because he is a friend to Brett Kavanaugh, and disruptive to the point where they had to get up and leave. I don't think I could have handled it with as much moxie as he did.
Well, you have to, Zeb. I've been through this, and I've done that. And you have to. You can't let them get you all fired up, because if you do, they just, you give them more bullets to shoot you with. They use it, and they go out and tell everybody how you acted and how bad you are and the things you did and how you reacted and all that kind of stuff. And it's part of their program to get you riled up and make you look bad.
But how did they know that he was going to be there? This is something that I've always asked the last couple of days on my program. They seemed, the minute that Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, and his wife arrived at the restaurant and were just about to be seated, they showed up en masse with all this yelling and screaming and diatribe, etc. How did they know he was going to be there?
I would guess they probably followed them, and when they found out where they were going, I think they probably had people already in the corner waiting and got them out there real quick. I had the same thing happen to me in downtown Indianapolis when I was in a meeting with one of my customers, and I came out and they didn't have a crowd, but they had two guys that as soon as I walked out the door on the street, they ran up to me and put their shoulders up against me on each side and just kind of tried to push me down the street, and were giving me a hard time and throwing stuff at me and everything. And a lot of people probably got mad and hit them, or said something they shouldn't have. And I just was very professional about it, and you could tell that they realized they were losing the battle.
Another story that I wanted to get into this morning, and I'm going to say it right up front. Kudos to our President Trump for what he said at the United Nations yesterday in the rejection of globalistic and globalization policies and an acceptance of patriotism for our United States of America. I think those words should have been said a long time ago by especially some of the previous presidents.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's what we need. And we got to push back at these people, and you can't be afraid to do it. Because at the end of the day, these people, they're after the American dream. They're after our American exceptionalism, and they want to get rid of our patriotism. They want to get rid of capitalism. They want to get rid of small business and the great American middle class. They want to get rid of our, Judeo-Christian values. And they're after our beloved Constitution. They want to bring it down.
Yeah.
And, again, this has been going on behind the scenes in our education system for the last 30, 40 years, and they're really ramping it up now. because they see Trump as a real threat to them.
You know, and it was really funny. Trump went to the United Nations with a kind of a look out. I'm coming in. If you don't like what I have to say, that is tough. I'm going to say it anyway. And when he mentioned, here was his quote. He said, "America will always choose independence and cooperation over global governance, control, and domination." And the minute he went through and said that he's proud to be an American and that he rejects globalization and accepts patriotism, there were rumors and murmurs and everything going across the United Nations, and newspapers and radio and TV people were going, "Oh, how can he say that?" I'm glad he said it because it needed to be said like I said, a long time ago.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And on top of that, and people go back and read my blogs on my site, The Devil at Our Doorstep. I wrote a blog about it included my comments on the United Nations, and I firmly believe that it doesn't do us any good, and that we ought to just shut it down and move it out of this country and not put money into it anymore, because it's not doing anything for us. It's these people's way of getting into our country and try and undermine us.
Absolutely. A sad story that I was a little hesitant to even talk about too much this morning, but it just is it's a sad commentary about those that are in power or in the public eye that absolutely denigrate themselves, and a story about Bill Cosby. At one time in his career, he was called America's Dad. Well, they took America's dad out of a courtroom yesterday in handcuffs as a convicted sexual predator. What are your thoughts about Bill Cosby?
Well, evidently the evidence was there, and it's sad that he went down the wrong path, but this is the way it should be done, is that, people are going to have to go through the process and go through the courts, and if they're found guilty, then, but at least he had the opportunity to prove he was innocent, but it's sad it turned out the way it did.
And I thought it was very low and even more denigrating to Cosby when his spokesperson was approached by the press after that court finalization as far as sending him to prison, and the person said, "Well, wait a minute, no, it's just Cosby was a victim to the legal system that has treated blacks unfairly forever." Wow, how low can you get? And it's always the attitude of those on the left, the liberal blacks, that are condemning the court system, saying they're being picked on. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, I think this is a whole part of the whole system, building people up, and they've gotten these people's heads, and this goes back to in the 60s when Johnson then they came out with all the entitlement programs and welfare programs and things for blacks and all that. And this wasn't to help these people. At the end of the day, what they really want is these people that, are indebted to them and will listen to them and do what they want them to do. Instead of, giving these people to go out and work hard and, and move up in society and do the right things as family people, they've kept them in a system where they're basically controlled because of all the entitlements and welfare.
Absolutely. Dave, we are just a matter of weeks away from the midterm elections. What's the general feeling back there in the Midwest, in Indiana, especially in Indianapolis, regarding going out and voting? What do you think's going to happen? What are the thoughts, and what are some of the things that you're hearing back in your part of the country?
Well, I think that Indiana is staying on course where it did in the last election, the presidential election. But again, I think one of the big things is midterm elections. People don't see that as a big thing for them, and I see actually both parties working really hard to try and get people out to vote, and it's going to be interesting to see if people realize that this is an important election and they take the time to get out there and vote and do the right thing for America.
You know, we've talked about quite a few things this morning, but tomorrow, a very, very important day. I hope it doesn't turn into a theater of sleaze with the hearings, not only with Kavanaugh, but also Rosenstein. What are your thoughts about the way this may turn out tomorrow night and when we talk again next Wednesday?
Well, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how things go with the Kavanaugh thing tomorrow, but I think he'll come out of it in a positive note. And Rosenstein, I mean, if you look behind the scenes, you know, there's he has been indicated as a big member of the deep state, and you know, he's been in charge with doing things behind the scenes to get Trump thrown out. And I think I think it needs to move ahead. I think if he doesn't resign, Trump needs to move him out, and other people who are doing these things, because we can't have people that are in Washington just to be in Washington and stay there and do what they want to do and control this country, whether it's in an administrative position in one of the agencies or if it's somebody in Congress or in the Senate. We need term limits. They need to be there for a certain amount of time, and when they're done, they need to go back to work in the private sector.
Absolutely. To end on a somewhat lighter note this morning, talking about your Indianapolis Colts and my Green Bay Packers, I'm not so sure either one of us are going to be proud at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was sad. I mean, the Colts did play pretty hard. You know, they played the last year or this year's Super Bowl champions, and at Philadelphia, and they really hung in there. They just made some mistakes at the end, and but you know, they are improving. So we're hoping that they do move up and maybe at least get in the playoffs. Green Bay is really disappointing, and I don't know what to say, because you know I'm a big Green Bay fan too.
I realize that, and you know I bleed green and gold, being from that state and that area. But what I saw this last Sunday with a secondary that looked like the Keystone Cops, I don't give them very much credence to go any further than possibly an 8-8 season.
Yeah, it was not pretty, and it's sad, but you never know. It's kind of like all sports. Things can turn around fast, and I hope they do, and I hope we're surprised.
Dave, it's always a treat to talk to you. I like your insight on a lot of these issues, and of course, you're cool, calm, and collected more so than I. God bless you, my dear friend, and we'll look forward to having you back next Wednesday. Thank you, Dave Bigo.
Well, and again, happy birthday in advance. I hope you have a great birthday.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you. God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.
Dear friend, Dave Bigo back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Very, very interesting businessman, entrepreneur, and author. Thank you very much. Got to pay some bills, and then we've got our guest already in the studio. He just kind of snuck in, and he's ready to go in just a moment. I want to remind everybody about Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, and they offer service you can trust. And along with the great equipment to keep you comfortable, it might also save you money, too. Don't forget that right now Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering up to $1,600 in rebates on qualifying equipment purchases of Lennox. So you check it out today and call them or stop in 678-0459. They're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Over 60 years of serving you, Ramsey Heating and Electric. Want to also remind you our friends at Ark Animal Hospital. And, you know, you really need to work with somebody that you can trust and rely on for the care and the health of your animals, whether you got one little itty-bitty kitty cat or a great big bunch of dairy cattle. I'll tell you what, Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union, they can and they will help you with the health of your animals. Now, the number to call, write this down, 678-1177. That number again, 678-1177. And as I said, they're a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they can help you and take care of all of them. And I urge you to call for Dr. Bill, Dr. Jordan, and the whole crew to serve you at Ark Animal Hospital in Hayburn. And the number again, 678-1177. They do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. In just a few moments, we're going to have a gentleman here in the studio that's going to be discussing Prop 2. And the other day we talked about Proposition 1, the horse racing issue, and we're going to talk about Prop 2 today. So if you have questions, I urge you to call, and the lines will be open. And we're not going to shun anyone. Anybody and everybody's welcome to give us a call and ask and state your case on Prop 2. So that'll be coming up in just a moment. Right now, I also want to remind you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. Hello, Jeff and the rest of the crew over there at 459 Overland in Burley. You know, they've got all the floor coverings for the holidays. I know. When I said holidays, you're going, holy mackerel, this is almost the end of September going into October. But if you put it off, you're not going to be ready. So I urge you to check it out at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More today. And they've got in stock all the new carpet and the luxury vinyl flooring and the vinyl flooring, everything, along with the closeout on certain mattresses for a good night's sleep. At Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Caller, I'm only going to take about a minute on your call because I've got to get with my guest. Quickly, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Zeb, very much. Okay, so it's game night for all ages every Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Golden Heritage Community Center. It's just been renamed, Burley Senior Junction, but it's Golden Community. And so it's ping pong around the world, pool table, card games, and just to get together, youth groups, family, dates, celebrations, $2 a person. It's free on your birthday week, though.
All right.
Just to help the Meals on Wheels, okay?
I appreciate that.
Looking forward to having you.
Thank you very much for throwing that at us this morning, and we caught it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a great
God
day.
bless. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, and I'm going to ask you to pull that microphone right over real close to you. I'm going to need you to talk real close. I would like to say a good morning to a gentleman that's here visiting with us, Brian Whitlock. And Brian, I just was handed moments ago a 2-page bio on you, but rather than me try to read and give you all the accolades of what you've done, why don't you tell us about Brian Whitlock in your own words?
Zeb, first off, thank you for the opportunity to be here at the ranch and be back with you again. It's been a number of years.
You've been here before?
I have been here before.
Please, test my memory.
A long time ago, I used to work for a gentleman named Dirk Kempthorne, who was a United States Senator and Governor.
Yes.
And we would come to the ranch periodically and just have a great time with you.
Well, I apologize. You had mentioned that to me the other day on the phone, and with my older memory, it slipped by me, and nice to have you back.
I'm catching up with you on that older memory.
Oh, you haven't got any gray hair at all, boy, I'll tell you what. Brian, you're now as the Director of Communications for the Idaho Hospital Association, right?
I serve as the President and the CEO of the Hospital Association, and so I represent all 43 member hospitals from Boundary County up near the Canadian border all the way to Bear Lake County.
Okay.
And we have 43 hospitals. They are large hospitals and very small critical access hospitals across the state, urban and rural. And we, of course, are very interested in the issue of Medicaid expansion. And I've been traveling the state talking to anybody that will listen to talk about the pros of this and certainly trying to answer the questions that come from the opposition on this.
You know, and Brian, I'm going to be really, really upfront and honest with you before we get our conversation. And I do need you to maybe turn the mic up a little bit and then sit a little closer to it. I am thoroughly convinced as a voter that I am going to vote yes on Prop 1, the horse racing issue. But I've got to tell you that I have looked and analyzed and studied and read almost everything I can on Prop 2, and I've got a lot of questions, concerns, and yes, even worries about Prop 2, the Medicaid issue. So I'm going to ask you for your expertise on this. What is the best way to inform the audience that's listening right now really about Prop 2, the Medicaid issue, before they go to the polls in November? What would you start off with this morning?
I would start off with the fact that we have 62,000 Idahoans who have no health care coverage. That's 62,000 of our family, friends, and neighbors who are maybe a car accident or a case of cancer away from medical bankruptcy. They are also individuals who are hardworking. They are seasonal workers. They service in restaurants. They take care of our kids in daycare centers. And they make either too much to qualify for Medicaid or too little to qualify for assistance on the health insurance exchange. So they are in what's called the gap. Meaning, again, they make too much for Medicaid, too little to get a subsidy. Let me give you an example. I have a son that just got married. His brand new bride quit her job, and they moved up to Moscow, Idaho to continue their education. She doesn't have a job, but when she quit her job in Utah before moving up to Moscow, she did have insurance, and to continue that insurance for her Cobra was $600 a month. Now, as young, starving college kids going to school, how is she going to afford $600 a month for health insurance when she doesn't have a job? And I've got a son who's taking out loans in order to go to medical school. In a few years, he's going to be making a lot of money, and he's going to be returning lots of taxes to this state. And yet right now, they are a medical catastrophe away from bankruptcy. If something were to happen to them while they're uninsured, their dreams, their plans, their hopes for the future are dashed away. And so there's got to be some way that we as a society can look to individuals who right now, because of our current system, either make too much to qualify for Medicaid assistance or too little to get help buying an insurance policy on the exchange. How can we help them? Or do we leave them uninsured? And we'll talk about what happens when Idaho has chosen to leave them uninsured.
Let's go back, if we may, Brian, and forgive me if I kind of shotgun this a little bit this morning, but let's go back as to the inception of the problem, and let's go back to Obamacare, okay? Take it from there and explain to me how this bubble of not covered individuals occurred.
Excellent question, and that really gets to the root of the issue here in Idaho. The goal of the Affordable Care Act was to provide health care coverage to most every American.
Right.
You could either do that through insurance exchanges and buying products, some which were subsidized by the federal government for lower income individuals. But for those that were above a certain poverty level, or below a certain poverty level, the federal government said, here are their options. If they're above 100% of the federal poverty level, they can buy a subsidized product on the health exchange. If they're below 100%, the states can expand Medicaid. Actually, originally, the Affordable Care Act said the states will expand Medicaid. That was challenged in court, and ultimately the Supreme Court said you can't force states to expand Medicaid. So when that mandate was removed, we then still had 33 of our 50 states and the District of Columbia that said we will expand Medicaid and give people below 100% of the federal poverty level the ability to be eligible for Medicaid.
Okay, let me interrupt you right there, and please forgive me, but I think you make points I want to ask questions
Absolutely.
on. When the government said you will or can expand Medicaid, at whose expense? The state taxpayers, or will the federal government create a stipend to come in and help?
So originally, and again, because there's a group of folks out there that have been uninsured. We don't know much about them. We don't know what their health conditions are. We don't know how acute their conditions might be. They may be full-blown diabetics, and we don't know that. They may be young, healthy individuals who just haven't purchased health insurance in the past. We don't know, and so originally the plan was to give states the option to expand Medicaid, bring those individuals into a health insurance coverage program, hopefully a program where you can have managed care and take care of that population. And then what the federal government said is, we will pay 100% of the cost for doing that for the first 3 years. So they stepped up and said, the federal government, we've collected all these federal taxes, we will go ahead and use that money to pay 100% of the cost for states that will expand Medicaid. Kind of an incentive to get those people into a system, get it stabilized, understand their conditions, and then be able to move forward. But the federal government said we can't continue to pay 100% in perpetuity, so we're going to ratchet that down. It'll go to 95%, and the state picks up 5%. And then by 2020, it will go to 90-10. So Idaho now is considering expanding Medicaid, but if and when this passes and when it's implemented, we're going to hit that point where the federal government has already ratcheted down. And we've missed out on the House money, if you will, our money that we've been sending back to Washington, D.C. to pay 100% of this. But we will have an opportunity to get 90% of the money that we've sent back.
Okay, now, Brian, what happens? I always look to the bottom line. I mean, there's a lot of distance between the initial opening of a statement and then finding out at the bottom what's going to cost. What happens if there is a complete repeal of Obamacare and, quite frankly, the taxpayers of all of these states, including us, are left holding the bag?
Again, another good question. And Zeb, just to be very candid, I was on the edge of my seat, as you probably were, throughout the entire calendar year of 2017. We'd just come off of an election with President Trump, who had promised that on day one,
yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Day one, we will repeal and replace. And with the Republican Congress and Republican House and Republican Senate, all the stars were lined up to do it on day one. It didn't happen. Then it was in the first 100 days. And then the House passed a bill. They had a Rose Garden ceremony saying, isn't this great? And then a few weeks later, the president was saying what the House did was mean to uninsured people.
Yeah.
And encouraged the Senate to do something different. And the Senate was never able to get there. You remember the infamous John McCain vote in July with the thumbs down?
Right.
And at that point, Mitch McConnell announced on the floor of the Senate early the next morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's time to move on.
Right.
And it was time to move on to tax reform and immigration reform and other things. I don't think that the United States Congress is going to take up the issue of repeal and replace. We may know more in 41 days when we have a midterm election. We may see the Republicans retain control of the House and the Senate, or we may see one of those flip. If one of those flips, I guess my point in all of this, Zeb, is there probably was not a better time to repeal and replace or to make substantive changes to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare than there was in 2017. And so I hear that argument, what if they change the whole system? What if they completely
go to a single payer?
Go to a single payer or do something totally different?
Yeah.
Well, the time to have done that was last year, and it didn't. And I think the dynamics are going to change enough in this midterm election that it's not going to happen in the near term. And so a number of Idahoans have said, if nothing's going to change, why are we continuing to punish and penalize uninsured Idahoans and not take advantage of the assistance that's available to them?
You know, Brian, you're very well versed in this story about Medicaid, but we're going to take a call that you've got your headsets on, and I hope you can hear. And then I want to come back, and I've got a lot more questions, and then we have to do some breaks. I got to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
Okay, you've been around this business.
We'll talk about paying the bills too.
Okay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. This morning I want to ruffle a few feathers because I think the Medicaid program is a wonderful thing for the people who need it. But you know who I blame in this situation? I blame the people on the administrative part, and then you have these people that work for Medicaid that to continue their job, they're actually recruiting people to become Medicaid people, taking it away from the people who really need it. Now, it makes me angry when I think about it, but when I see this happening with people I know that are driving nice cars and really enjoying life, and they're on Medicaid, that upsets me. And until they can get the administrative part of it under control, I'm disappointed.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, caller, we'll have Brian discuss that on the air. Brian, please respond to the caller.
And I appreciate that call, and certainly, you will hear stories and instances of individuals that abuse the system. I think that's the case in any system.
Right.
You'll find loopholes, you'll find opportunities, you'll find ways to work around the system. But again, in Idaho, we have 274,000 people who are on the current Medicaid program, which was designed for children, elderly adults, disabled adults, and pregnant women. And of those 274,000, 200,000, the vast majority of those people are children.
Mm-hmm.
So the Medicaid program, the CHIP program, Children's Health Insurance Program, was designed to help keep these kids healthy and from developing chronic illnesses that cost us more later. So of the remaining 74,000, to say that there isn't somebody that's abusing the system, I can't sit here with a straight face and say that people aren't working around the system somehow. But for the majority of them, this is necessary care. It's life-saving care for disabled adults. I'm sorry, but I don't see them abusing the system.
And for the key words that you just mentioned there a moment ago, disabled adults, I think that we would all jump in the boat and help row to shore for the disabled adults. But you and I both know that there are many, many leeches, I'm going to call it the way I feel, in the system that are able-bodied but are sitting back watching television and eating bonbons that are just enablers. And that's the part of the system that I worry about.
And again, with the Medicaid expansion program, the design is to allow low-income individuals to have access to health care coverage.
At what kind of a cost to them and or us?
For them, the cost is it's nothing. I mean, they're part of the Medicaid program.
Do they do any contributory type funding?
There are states that have looked at co-payments and some other things in their Medicaid program for able-bodied adults, but so far I don't believe that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has approved it. There are some states that are trying it, though.
Wouldn't it be, in my estimation, I'll get a break for a weather forecast here, but wouldn't it be, in my opinion, more valuable for us and them that have no coverage right now to actually pronounce ownership by being contributory, even on a small scale?
Personally, I don't disagree with you, Zeb. I think having skin in the game is a good thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think we should promote the kind of skin in the game that would preclude people from having access to life-saving health care provisions.
When we come back, let's talk about the costs of if we don't and if we do, and break that down a little bit, if you don't mind.
Great.
We're talking to a gentleman by the name of Brian Whitlock, and I had him on the air before in my old mind. I didn't remember a long time ago, and he is, of course, with the Idaho Hospital Association talking about Proposition 2. We're going to be back in just a moment, but right now, I want to remind everybody about our weather forecast being brought to you by some really top-notch professional people that really care about you, your business, and your family, and that's Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area for well over 50 years, with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, assistance with IRS communications, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, the list goes on, and the service does too. Remember that they've got offices in Burley and Rupert really helping and working for you. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Going to be a nice day as we hit midweek. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Expecting sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice and calm. High of 72 tonight, mostly clear with a low of 43. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 78, a light breeze out of the southwest, right around 5 miles an hour. Tomorrow night, clear skies with a low of 45. As we look ahead towards Friday, expecting sunny skies, high of 80, overnight low of 48. By Saturday, mostly sunny and 82. Then for Sunday, temperature's going to drop a little bit. Mostly sunny skies and 72, and by Monday, mostly sunny and 74. That's a look at your weather. For Zeb at the Ranch.
She does a great job on the weather. Gina, thank you very much. And brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And, of course, accounting services to you for over 50 years. Please get a hold of them today for an appointment. Find out about the tax rate changes. Find out about the deduction changes. All of this and more for you, your family, and your business at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Offices in Burley and Rupert. Want to also remind you, too, that we've got some friends on the program that have been here for a long, long time, and they've got the best of fun. That's right, let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. And don't forget, right now, they've got all the snowmobiles on display. Yes, sirree, Bobby, it's time to head for the hills in a couple of weeks. There's going to be snow up there, and enjoy. But they also have all the four-wheelers, all the ATVs, everything for you to get up in the hills and enjoy the great fall colors. So stop in and see them today at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And it's true, this is where the fun is sold. You know, Brian, when you look at this situation of those that don't have the coverage versus those of us that work hard every day, we try to pay our bills, we try to send the kids to school, try to buy the groceries, try to pay the car payments and everything else, and then also our health insurance. You can't blame some people for feeling an animus against those that might be able-bodied and not really being contributory. But break down the cost for us a little bit and help us on what it's going to cost if we do pass Proposition 2 or if we don't.
Sure, and let me back up to the last caller, too, as they talked about abuses of the system.
Right.
The Department of Health and Welfare has set up a fraud unit, and so if people know of people that are abusing the system in that way, they need to let the Department of Health and Welfare know, and that will be investigated. So, again, we don't want any abuses of the current system.
So is this fraud unit, I don't mean to beleaguer this, but is this something new that has been started recently, or?
Yeah, I think it's a couple years old.
I wish they'd have started it a long time ago.
Yeah.
For many reasons.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about costs. What about the costs if we don't pass Proposition 2?
So if we don't pass Proposition 2, what we then have is a continuation of the current system, which is 62,000 Idahoans, some of whom don't access any health care and don't have any preventive health in their lives, some who have chronic conditions. Let's say somebody that has asthma, and they're not able to have access to an inhaler to help them with their condition. A few years ago in Idaho Falls, there was a tragic incident of a young lady who had asthma. She did not have health care coverage. Her husband was just a few weeks away from qualifying for health care coverage for his family through his employment, and she had asthma and was trying to borrow inhalers from others, buy them on the black market, because she couldn't go to the doctor to get the prescription to go and buy them herself. So ultimately, she aspirated. They rushed her to the hospital. She was brain dead. They kept her alive for a couple of days and ultimately pulled the plug because she didn't have access to a fairly inexpensive inhaler. The people ended up paying the cost of that very expensive hospital stay where she was brain dead. They kept her alive for a few days so that family could come in and pay their last respects versus the cost of an inhaler. And Zeb, I think if you and I were faced with that decision, do we pay for an inhaler and give them preventative care and help them stay healthy, or do we wait till it reaches a crisis point and ultimately it costs the taxpayers a lot more money? Which of those scenarios is better? The current system would continue that scenario.
Yeah.
The current system would continue people not having access to health care coverage and, again, seeking it in the most expensive and inefficient way by coming to the emergency rooms where it's the most costly.
Would I be out of line at this time in our interview if I said this question? How will it be funded, and how will it affect the Idaho taxpayer?
So again, under the current scenario, there would be no cost to the Idaho taxpayer for Medicaid expansion. We'd just continue to do things the inefficient way that we do it now.
With the federal government's involvement?
No. The federal government is not involved currently with this expansion population. Okay. What I want you to know, though, is, Zeb, you've already you already sent your taxes to the federal government.
Boy, did I
They
ever.
collected it. And if you or any of your listeners have received a rebate or a refund from the federal government because Idaho did not expand Medicaid and bring back those federal dollars to pay the federal portion of it, I'd love to talk to you, because I didn't get a rebate because Idaho failed to expand Medicaid. Now, the opponents of this will say, gee, you can't say that California and New York are using our money, but you also can't say that the Idaho money that we've sent back is sitting somewhere in a corner room in the Treasury stacked up with a note that says reserved for Idaho. Our money is getting used somewhere, and we are not having it returned to Idaho to pay for health care as it was originally designed. So you've paid your federal taxes, you didn't get your rebate, that money has gone from the state. What we're saying is bring that money back that we've already paid in. Every citizen across the country has paid in. California and New York and a total of 33 states have expanded Medicaid and are taking those federal dollars back to pay their portion of the Medicaid expansion costs.
So, Brian, are you saying that the expansion to cover these people, 60,000, 70,000, whatever the number might be, would be money from what pocket?
The pocket that you've already sent money to the federal government from.
Okay, so it's basically a return from the feds.
Absolutely.
But what happens, and I don't know if
and that's 90% of the cost.
Okay, I was going to say 90%, but what happens if the government is no longer involved in any part of Medicaid and Idaho has to accept the full and sole responsibility for the program? I mean, it's not that way right now. Is it that Idaho is solely responsible for it?
We don't have an expansion program.
Okay, but if we did, we're all Idaho's on the hook for the expansion itself.
We don't pay for it.
Okay.
They are uninsured, and when they seek care, it's paid for in a number of ways. Either a hospital absorbs that as charity or bad debt, which, candidly, gets cost shifted to those of us that do have health care coverage. If they're indigent, the county picks up the first $11,000. They have the potential of losing their property. The state picks up the amount over $11,000 for a catastrophic case. So you are paying property tax right now for uninsured and indigent people who access health care coverage. You're paying for it as well through your state taxes, your income taxes for the state catastrophic health care fund. You're paying for it, and we're not utilizing it in your federal taxes. So you're already paying for it 3 different ways, actually 4, because your insurance costs and your actual utilization when you go to the doctor is going to be higher to offset the people who haven't paid because they're uninsured. Same thing at a department store. You're paying a little higher for that pair of jeans because somebody else came in and shoplifted and carried something off for free, and you're paying the cost of that.
Here's what I'd like to do. I've got to do one more break, and then we're going to go to the news from CBS, and we're going to have Brian held over for the next half hour. Folks, if you have questions, this man absolutely knows the entire scenario of Medicaid, and I'm sure he'd welcome your questions at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. So we're going to hold him over for the next half hour after the news from CBS, so please call. I want to remind everybody, too, about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. These wonderful professionals know all about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, and they want to help you, your family, and your business. They're very dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you need to do is take the initiative and make the call. Make an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. All right, so the game plan is that we're going to head to the news from CBS in just a moment, and we're going to be back next half hour for another 30 minutes of answering questions, your questions, on Proposition 2 with Brian Whitlock with the Idaho Hospital Association. Stay tuned. I'll be back in about 6 minutes. And we're back. Back for hour number 3, and kind of a different way of doing things this morning, with the starting of a segment at 9:30, carrying over till 10:30. Zeb at the Ranch, of course, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, with a great big fall tire sale going on right now. And some of our great advertisers, like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And remember, they're helping you get back to being you. Really good people. We are blessed to have this gentleman in our studio this morning by the name of Brian Whitlock. And Brian, of course, has been here years ago with, was he a governor or a senator at that time? Oh, I got to turn your microphone on. It wouldn't hurt. Go ahead.
Both.
Yeah. Dirk Kempthorne.
Yep.
And I forgot that this gentleman had sat right over there by the desk and waiting for Dirk to have the interview. But now you're with the Idaho Hospital Association, and we're talking about Proposition 2. And during the break, I mentioned to Brian, and he's a really nice guy and open-minded. I said, you're trying to sell me, too, because I'm in the middle of the road on the Medicaid issue as far as whether to vote yes on Prop 2 or no on Prop 2. I've made up my mind on Prop 1, but boy, you've got me right now. I'm standing in the middle of the boxing ring, and you're hitting me because I don't know what to vote for. The cost factor bothers me, and I'd like you to get back into things by telling us a little bit about the cost.
Well, the last hour we talked a little bit about the fact that we're already sending our money back to the federal government.
Right.
This is an opportunity to bring back, in the first full year of operation, $412 million of our taxes that we've sent to the federal government. So we're bringing some of that money home.
Where would that money be held, by the way, Brian? Tell me that.
So basically it would come back to the state, just as our current Medicaid program. We get a certain share of that from the federal government. It's a 70-30 split rather than a 90-10 split. So the 70% comes to the state, and they use that to administer the program, the current Medicaid program, again, to those 274,000 Idahoans who currently have Medicaid, many of whom are children.
Right.
This would expand Medicaid to 62,000 working Idahoans, low-income wage earners. Again, picture a single mom sitting at her dining room table with a couple of kids and trying to decide, can I afford health care coverage this month, or do I put food on the table? Can I buy that prescription, or do I have to get them back to school supplies? And having to make those very difficult situations. And this is a working mother who may be working during the day and waiting tables at night, again, just to take care of her family. And she doesn't have access to health care coverage. Her kids probably do under the CHIP program. Mm-hmm. What happens to that mom if something catastrophic happens, or she gets sick, discovers something, and can't afford to go to the doctor, and then ultimately it waits until it's a health crisis, and then the taxpayers pick up the full cost for that, either through indigent or catastrophic health plans, or through a cost shift because she doesn't have the ability to pay for it.
Okay, now I'm not even sure how to phrase this question, so bear with me on this. You're with the Idaho Hospital Association. What is the current status now where I've been in and out of the hospital all my life? I've had so many doggone accidents I can't even count the days. We figured it up one time, and I've been in the hospital since I was a little boy, in and out over 4.5 years.
Wow.
That's a lot of time. But the first thing they always say is, do you have insurance? I mean, you're laying there shivering and wondering what's going to happen, and then they come in and they say, do you have insurance coverage? But there are so many that don't, and they seem to be a cost factor to the entire system. Is this, if we vote yes on the Medicaid issue, going to help alleviate some of the hospitals that are going out of business right now because they can't afford to give the treatment?
Yes, and let me first address the issue of when somebody shows up in the emergency room, we don't ask, do you have insurance? We, under EMTALA, passed by Ronald Reagan in 1986, if you show up in the emergency room, we have to take care of you. Later on, there will be paperwork, do you have insurance? And that question comes. But when you show up, we have to take care of you. We cannot even ask if you have the ability to pay for that. We have to provide the care. So there's a mandate on the hospitals to provide that emergency care when somebody comes into an emergency department. Again, Ronald Reagan passed that in '86. That's what we deal with. And so when an uninsured person comes in, that is something that we don't get reimbursed for. So let me just lay out this scenario. The current state of play is an uninsured person comes in, we provide the care. We either have to write that off as charity care or bad debt if they're uninsured and have no ability to pay for it. Okay?
Right.
So you provide the care, you get zero for it. Imagine any business that you would go in and say, you know, you've got some wonderful sponsors of your program, but if there was a certain population that could just walk into any of those stores and not have to pay for anything, what would happen?
Well, they'd go out of business.
They would go out of business,
Absolutely.
or they'd have to cost shift to others that do come in and pay.
Yeah.
And so, that's the current scenario in hospitals. What is proposed with the Medicaid expansion is, let's take these low-income Idahoans, working Idahoans that do come in and have an emergency, or they go into a primary care doc to have preventive care. Let's draw back our 90% of the taxes that we've already paid to the federal government and use it to cover that health care. To do that, the state has to come up with 10%. So here's the either or. We can either continue to not get reimbursed as hospitals for people who are uninsured, and I love visual aids, or the state can come up with a dime.
He's holding up a dime, by the way.
Holding up a dime. And we then would get $1 for that dime to take care of the health care costs of that individual.
Right.
Which scenario, if you were running a business or you're running a hospital, would you rather be under?
No, you're a good salesman on that, and I'm not going to equate you with being a salesman. You're a good explainer of this situation. I understand entirely, and I absolutely don't want to see the hospitals and or the communities suffer because of a non-payment compliance. I want to see everybody try to prosper.
So you have 27 what we call critical access hospitals. These are small rural hospitals across the state of Idaho. These are in communities with just a couple of thousand people. But when you go to Salmon, Idaho, and if you have an issue, you want to get it addressed and stabilized in Salmon, Idaho, because it's another 163 miles to Idaho Falls.
That's right.
If that hospital closes down, you have some real issues. Whether it's delivering babies or somebody who's in the wilderness that gets injured, whatever it is, that hospital provides critical access to care for individuals that need it. We have 27 of those in Idaho, small rural hospitals, less than 25 beds. And of those 27, Zeb, 19 of them operate at zero margin or less.
Wow.
That means they come and they work all day, every day, and the work that they do doesn't completely pay the bills. Some of those hospitals are county hospitals or district hospitals, and the taxpayers are the ones that keep them in the black, that allow them to keep the lights on and the doors open.
Okay, Brian, we have a caller with a question. I don't want to have these people wait too long. I appreciate the calls. Caller, please, you're on the air. Go.
Yes. So if I understand you right, if we vote for this means that our taxes are going to go down. This means that our insurance is going to go down. This means that when we go to the hospital, our hospital bills are going to go down. I don't believe that for a minute. I mean, I wasn't born last night.
All right. I tell you,
Explain that to me.
we will explain that, and it's a very good question, and I appreciate your call. And if you don't mind, sir, because of the electronic value, I think we'll go ahead and answer that on the air, if you don't mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's a good, fair question.
Absolutely. And if you look nationwide, again, I mentioned 33 states have expanded Medicaid.
Right.
Their insurance costs, on average, are 7% lower than Idaho and other non-expansion states. Now, you might ask why. Well, because you have more people who are insured, more people with coverage, and so you are not cost-shifting to those that have insurance for those who had been uninsured. They now have Medicaid coverage. I had an individual last night who said he had just gone out onto the Washington State Exchange, and he looked at the cost of an insurance plan for a 40-year-old male non-smoker. And then he compared it in Idaho to a 40-year-old male non-smoker. 20% less cost in Washington State?
Yeah.
It's not cheap to live in Washington State, but it's 20% less for that insurance policy, again, because more people are in the coverage pool, either through commercial insurance or through Medicaid.
Brian, I'm going to sound again like Ned in the first grade reader when I ask a simplified question, but bear with me on this. But if we go ahead and pass Proposition 2 and create a coverage for those 60 or 70,000 people, are we going to become an enabler for them to stay at their current level and not really have the incentive or the motivation to try to get out and get things on their own? Do you understand where I'm coming from on that?
I do, and I would look to what's happened in the last few years with our Idaho economy. And you look at the SNAP program, the food stamp program. Right. The number of people on that food stamp program, even though our population has grown, the number of people has diminished because they now have jobs that disqualify them from getting the SNAP benefit. Same thing in Idaho. If we can keep these working Idahoans working, rather than having a health condition that causes them not to be able to work, that's better for them and it's better for the economy.
What about the situation, though, Brian, that, and I hate to beat this dead horse, but if the government pulls out all the way and there is an opportunity, they might say, nope, we're done, we're walking away from this, we're not going to do it. And Idaho takes over the entire program. Will they, at that time, our legislature, have a chance to not only revamp, rewrite, and redo the entire system for the benefit of the state, or will this be a short-term thing to where the feds would come back and say, no, you can't do that, we're going to do it our way?
I think if Idaho had full control of its program, they could do whatever they wanted and structure it however they wanted, but they would also pay the full cost of that.
Okay.
It is expensive, and so this is an opportunity to utilize our federal tax dollars that we've already paid and bring them back to Idaho.
If we don't...
Look, can I just finish?
Absolutely. Pardon my interruption. Go ahead.
I hear that argument, what if the federal government does this? And we talked last hour. The time to do that was 2017, and it didn't happen. And I'm not going to sit here and say that sometime in the future there won't be some adjustments to Medicaid, which has been around since 1965, with no major adjustments to it. I can't say that nothing will happen, but I can say if something happens to Medicaid, then they're probably already also going to be doing the same thing to the federal transportation program, the agricultural subsidy programs, all of the other things. If the federal government hits that crisis point where they have to say we can no longer do all of these things, we need to be worried about more than just health care. We need to be worried about our agricultural communities, about our research and development at the Idaho National Laboratory, about our military installations, our roads and bridges, and everything else that the federal government plays a part in.
I don't think that you can blame myself or any other Idahoan that is concerned about trying to meet and accept the taxation program the way it is and have somebody say, well, it's going to cost X amount of dollars more for Idahoans to take and further this coverage. You can't blame people for being wary about how this might fall back on their shoulders.
Right. And the same thing with, like I said, everything else. If we hit a crisis point in the U.S. government, even though we're now at 21 trillion. It was 19 trillion when I started talking about
Don't start using numbers like that on this program. It scares me to death.
If we hit that point where they say we have to offload these, it's going to be more than health care that they offload.
Absolutely.
And we will have a serious issue that will require a much broader discussion, not just on health care, but on education, on transportation, on agriculture, and our entire economy.
Brian, I'm going to ask your indulgence, if I can, please, to do a couple of commercials. And we're on the air with Brian Whitlock with the Idaho Hospital Association, and this gentleman has been very, very informative about Proposition 2. We still have time for questions. Give us a call, 436-2244. Want to remind you about our friends at Dino Septic Service, because they do the job that I don't want to do. I don't want to stand out there and pump a septic tank. I don't want to go out there and clean sewer and sink drain lines and all that type of thing. No, liquid waste removal. Are you kidding? But they do it with a big smile on their face. Fast, fair, fair, friendly service, Dino Septic Service, and I'll guarantee you if you need something pumped, you better do it before the ground freezes, and that's right around the corner. Give them a call. Newly expanded to serve you, Dino Septic Service, of course, 436-6526, and in Burley, 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service with a big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. You give them a call right now. Also want to remind you about a great place for seniors, and I'm talking about Syringa Plaza. Lovely and affordable senior community in Burley, Idaho, and it's so easy to find, so easy to stop by and visit and find out if it's going to suit you. With all the special features they have to serve you, serving low-income seniors who maintain an independent living status with or without assistance. Syringa Plaza, located at 626 Elba Avenue in Burley, and a number to call, and I urge you to do that, 677-4204. That number again, 677-4204. Serving you, affordable senior community in Burley, Syringa Plaza. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air. Thank you.
Well, you were talking about debt, and you see, somehow we've got $21 trillion in debt. And then the unfunded mandates is $130 trillion. And we never talk about that. But somehow this Social Security and whatever the other one is, I don't know, maybe he can tune me up, I forget. You study and you learn and you read so much stuff that sometimes you forget. But you see, we still are just going further and further into debt. And so as the population of America grows older and needs more health care, you say, you know, where does, someday there's going to be a call to Jesus meeting here, ain't there? And we're going to have to somehow correct all this, and I don't even know how it would ever happen on a national basis. I'll hang up. Thanks.
You know, and I appreciate your call, caller, but Brian, I'm going to sum it up by saying this. It's kind of like the old Fram oil filter ad, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Isn't that basically what we're talking about with this Proposition 2? In somewhat...
Yeah, if you look at it from the patient side,
right.
Again, they're delaying preventive care, they're delaying necessary care until it reaches a health crisis and costs a lot more.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the taxpayers are the ones that pick up that cost at a much higher expense to them.
If Proposition 2 does not pass, what, in your opinion and speculation, will happen over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think you'll continue to see escalating healthcare costs because, again, that will get shifted to those of us who do pay. So, Again, to the caller saying, gee, is my insurance going to go down? Well, it has in states that have expanded Medicaid. Are my taxes going down? Well, the Milliman report said over the course of the next 8 years, you'd save about $97 million in property taxes that wouldn't have to be collected for indigent care. So, yes, maybe your property taxes could go down. This will generate, it will stimulate the economy. When you bring $400 million back into the economy, that's 5,000 new jobs a year. That's people paying taxes. That means, again, you're spreading the tax burden across a wider breadth of people in this state. So, yes, maybe your taxes could go down. And I'm sorry, I know he wasn't born last night, but those are the effects that the economists say will happen. You'll have that multiplier effect of, for $400 million coming in, it generates $1.78 in additional economic activity in the state.
So let's do this. In fairness to you, your stance on Prop 2, etc., I'm going to give you exactly 2 minutes before we wrap up this entire hour-long segment and tell me and all my listeners why they should vote yes on Prop 2.
Thanks, Zeb, for the opportunity. I just got a random email from my credit union the other day, and it said, if you have high-interest credit cards over here or loans over here, consolidate everything and just pay 2.9% interest. And so, let's take that philosophy and say, okay, we are paying for the uninsured through indigent, catastrophic health care fund, cost shifting, higher costs for those who utilize. We're paying for them in a variety of very inefficient ways. To use that same analogy, let's all get it together and instead of chaotic, and understand what we're paying for and pay for it in a more efficient way. An efficient way that brings our tax dollars back to Idaho that we've sent to the federal government, that lowers our property taxes, that eliminates the need for the catastrophic health care fund to the extent it's being used right now, and will help lower the cost for those of us that do utilize health care. You know, Prop 2, the number 2, I've gone around the state and said yes to the number 2, better health, because Prop 2 will give low-income working Idahoans access to better health care coverage. Yes to a stronger economy. I don't think anybody can argue that bringing $450 million back into the state in the first year will have a negative effect on our economy. It'll create jobs and expand the tax base. So yes to the number 2, a stronger economy, and yes to Prop 2, because I think it's a win-win-win for Idaho. It's a win for low-income Idahoans, it's a win for taxpayers, and it's a win for our state's economy.
Is the wording on the ballot going to be such that it's going to be simplified enough to understand what people are going to say yes or no on Prop 2?
When you have to write these things, you know, a ballot passed by the people, a ballot measure passed by the people becomes law. Right. It's the same as the legislature passing a bill and the governor signing it into law. It's part of the statute at that point. So it's written very, I like this word, statute-esque. It's got some legal language in it. But the short title, I think, is pretty straightforward. It says, it directs the Department of Health and Welfare to amend the state plan to expand Medicaid to certain persons. And so, again, if those low-income certain persons, as it's identified in statute-esque language, you know, again, from a compassionate side, I think people will say, yes, we should be doing that. You're a God-fearing Christian just like I am, and I go to church on Sunday and am preached to about the Good Samaritan and, you know, naked and you clothed me, thirsty and you gave me drink, sick and you came unto me. And I'm preached that every Sunday, and here it is on Wednesday, and I'm trying to practice with the sick in Idaho. How do I come unto them? And how do I do it in the most efficient and economic way? And I think Proposition 2, and saying yes to Proposition 2, is the same, is a way for me to live what I'm preached to on Sunday, but also have an opportunity to help Idaho's economy and to provide new jobs.
You know, Brian, I respect you coming on the program, and I'm going to ask you this. As we draw closer, we're still roughly in round figures about 6 weeks away from the election, and I am going to call you and have you come back either on the phone or here in person. But healthcare in general and overall is one of the biggest messes for any country to try to solve right now. And in the United States, the problem is growing. It's exacerbated every day, and maybe this is one of the answers that we need to look at, Prop 2, at the election on November.
And Zeb, thank you again for the opportunity to help explain some of that.
Oh, you did a wonderful
job. And why
job.
Folks should vote yes. I get the privilege of working with 29,000 people in hospitals across the state.
Wow.
They're caring individuals who are doing their very best to help people in crisis, to help people who are having tragedies in their lives, and it's just a pleasure for me to be their advocates and try to help explain this issue across the state.
A great gentleman that lives up in Meridian with the Idaho Hospital Association, Brian Whitlock. Brian, God bless you. Thanks for coming on. Prop 2. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Seth.
Thank you. Right now, we're going to send it over to our main studio for about 3 minutes. I'll be back. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you. Very interesting hour with Brian Whitlock and talking about Prop 2. And we're going to have more segments on Prop 1 and 2 as the weeks go by. And I want to thank Brian and his lovely wife that were here during that last hour. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and I've had this gentleman on before, and I'm looking forward to more of a conversation with him. Dr. Warren Farrell, the author of The Boy Crisis, Why Our Boys Are Struggling and What We Can Do About It. Good morning, Dr. Farrell. How are you?
Good morning. I really enjoyed our last conversation.
You know, Dr. Farrell, since you were here the last time, I really have sat and thought a lot about what we talked about, and then I looked at parenting and raising boys. I think of my daughter. She's got 3 great sons that are very respectful, my grandsons, and my son has got 2 young sons. But boys, like my daughters right now, one is 17, one is 15, and one is 13, and they're going out into the world to try to be leaders in their community, leaders of their family, leaders in whatever occupation they choose. But it seems like our society is trying to put boys down and emasculate them almost. Am I wrong?
No, there's a real challenge going on for boys, and the boys that are having the biggest problems are boys that have minimal or no father involvement. And so in the old days, you had a very clear sense of purpose, and the purposes were, if you're going to be a man, you'll either be a warrior, and you risk disposability, you risk dying, but you were told you were wanted, you were needed, and you were at least responsive to that. And it's wonderful we don't have so many boys needed to die in wars today, but the old sense of purpose that they had is now what I call a purpose void. It used to be that a boy would have a full-time, he would have to be a full-time breadwinner, and he would be the sole breadwinner, and it's wonderful that there's more flexibility today, but on the other hand, that gave him a sense of purpose. And so, but without a father and a mother both involved in the parenting of the children, we find that boys don't know how to get their new sense of purpose. Fathers are helpful in not only helping a boy define what his unique characteristics are, what might be most fulfilling to him, but also the most important contribution of dads is helping with the postponed gratification that comes from the enforcement of boundaries, and so that he can't just do what he wants to do, and if he doesn't do what he's expected to do and needs to do, there are consequences for that. And that's part of what is so helpful for boys and for our daughters, to be able to have that postponed gratification that's necessary to fulfill their goals, so you don't just have a dream, but without the discipline to know how to fulfill that dream, and the discipline and focus to make money that will help contribute to your family.
I don't know how old you are, Dr. Farrell, but I'm going to be celebrating another birthday this next week. I'm an old man, but I am so thankful. Pardon me?
Not as old as I am.
I'll be 71. How close am I?
I'm 75.
All right. Well, we're in the same neck of the woods, and we're ready to find the road to walk home. I'll tell you that.
Indeed are.
Dr. Farrell, the thing I'm concerned about is, and at the end of my program every day, I have a tagline that says, "The way things were are the way things ought to be." I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that we as referring to parents across the board here in this country, we need to revert back to the parenting abilities that I had when I was a young man. My dad was very strict and very firm about things, and he taught me how to be a man about situations, taught me how to be an excellent person as far as opening doors for ladies, being very respectful. I had 2 parents that worked with me growing up, and I am so thankful. We've got away from that. We've also created another problem for our boys today, being raised around a situation, whether it's the gay or lesbian lifestyle, that has created feelings of insecurity and trauma for these kids. I wouldn't want to be a kid today.
You're hitting so much that is very important, right on the head. So if you're today, with the Kavanaugh situation, for example, your son is looking at a world where, on the one hand, girls today have the option to initiate, but he still has the expectation, and he's likely to be as we did in our day. But in our day, if a boy initiated too quickly, too much. A girl just pushed him away, or or said no, and that was the end of that. So he learned what was too much and what isn't. Today, if your son initiates too much or too soon or in the wrong way, with the wrong woman, with the wrong tone of voice, at the wrong time, before the right number of drinks or after too many drinks, the Kavanaugh lesson is that his future might be ruined. Yet on the other hand, if your son backs off and doesn't initiate, or initiates with too much caution, or lets too long a time go by before he initiates, his fear is that he'll be thought of as a wimp, or he'll hear what I did hear a couple of times in my life, which I took to be very positive until I realized what that meant. He said he'll hear something like, if he doesn't initiate too quickly, or it takes too long a time, he'll hear, you are such a sweet guy. I'd love us to just be friends. Could you? And then a little bit later, could you introduce me to Kyle from your math class? He's a really great quarterback.
Yeah.
And I really would like to meet him. So if labeled sweet, your son will fear that he's not only going to not be successful with women, but he also won't probably be successful in life, because it takes more than just sweetness to be successful in life. So he feels caught between a rock and a hard place, and without a father in particular. It's extremely, and a mother sharing with him, what women want and what women need. And my father and mother, sat me down and said, "There's one thing you need to know about women, and that is that they need to be, and you need to know how to respect women." And so and once women are respected, then they often want the same things that you want, but you have to respect if they say no, to back off, and to give them a chance to redirect or find out what's going on from there. But today we have a lot of challenging experiences for boys in the way I just mentioned, and what it leads many boys to do is to turn to the much more easily available pornography that was much more now if you put free video porn, by the way, into the computer, you get 250,000 responses and options, whereas when you and I were growing up, you had to find the Rubens painting in the back of the library or something. And so pornography gives, and our sons and grandsons are turning to pornography because it gives them access to a variety of attractive women without fear of rejection and at a price that they can afford. But on the other hand, it releases your son's dopamine only by increasingly risky virtual sex with these increasingly risky, airbrushed women, and that creates an addiction by your son's brain to these beautiful women taking risky situations that oftentimes a woman feels, a real life woman feels is making her feel objectified, only therefore leading to her rejecting him, therefore turning him back to more porn.
Dr. Farrell, today in our society, and right now, this minute, there is a condemnation of the white males in our society, whether it's on talk shows, on television like The View with Joy Behar, the condemnation of the white male, and anybody that espouses kind of a John Wayne attitude, they're looked down upon as being too much of a person in conquest, too much of a leader, too much of a person that controls other people. I honestly think we need to get back to the John Wayne attitude in this country. That's when men were men with male ideas and ideology, and yet very supportive of females in a politeness of opening doors, shutting doors, holding a chair when they sit down. What's wrong with that?
There's a lot of things that are really wonderful about that, and we also have to know that that what led to our sons being successful in the past will lead them to being successful in the future in some ways, and there's new opportunities that the future holds that we need to also prepare our children for. So, for example, in the past, it was really boys got trained to have what I call heroic intelligence. But heroic intelligence was also training for a short life, to be disposable in war or to be disposable in the workplace if needed. And that had its limitations. Today there's an opportunity for our sons to also not just have heroic intelligence or training for a short life, but to have health intelligence or training for a long life. And health intelligence includes knowing how to also be not just be able to complete a project and to get going when the tough gets going, but also to be able to express feelings rather than repress feelings, because a lot of what happened for guys that were told no matter how difficult things were, you have to just repress feelings and get on. That was good for their families, and that might even be good for, and that was definitely good for society. But the man often died at an early age in the process of doing that, and many of us want our sons to be able to live longer. And then also, now that women are sharing the responsibility for earning income to a greater degree, what women will be looking for in men is not just money makers, but also men with emotional intelligence as well.
Absolutely.
And so we have a new opportunity as fathers and mothers to bring the best of the old characteristics. And where I totally agree with you is we've been completely neglecting the value of those old characteristics and replacing things like, our sons go to college or high school, and especially they see girls all around them that are worried about having to have a trigger warning before something is said, and they can't have somebody speak on campus that they disagree with because it might offend them. This coddling of boys and girls is very seriously hurting the next generation from really being able to keep an open mind and pursue thinking and handle things that are different, the very things that we send them to college to learn.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Thank you.
When I watch TV, I see spokespersons that are supposed to be men, but they're kind of a flimsy, it's almost like they're suggesting that he could be a transgender, and all the spokespersons I see now are just kind of flimsy men. I don't hate them. I don't care it bothers me because, see, the instincts of a man are to be a man. And a young boy doesn't know how to be a man unless his father is one. I have 5 sons, and I'm going to tell you, there was times when it was a cat fight, and but I knew that I had to hang in there because in the end they would realize that what I did was right, and maybe I had to grow up with my children. But all my sons are men. They're productive. They're good fathers, and they know right from wrong, and they're raising young boys to be men or young girls to be girls. And, the man has to be a man, not some flimsy person who's not sure what he is. I'll hang up.
Great comment, and please respond to the caller, Dr. Farrell.
Yes, absolutely. So what we need to do as fathers is to be able to explain exactly what is the value of what we do. So, for example, in relation to what your caller is saying, he's absolutely right. We need to do, let's say we have our son or daughter is resisting having their peas, finishing their peas until they get their ice cream, and they want to get their ice cream right away. And moms will oftentimes be very sensitive to not wanting to get into a big fight with their kids about eating a few peas before they have their ice cream. So she'll say, "Okay, sweetheart, let's finish 2 more peas here or 4 more peas, and then you can have your ice cream." And she feels she's made an accomplishment. But what the child has learned is, with mom, when she says something like, "Finish your peas," I can manipulate a better deal. With dad, he's much more likely to say, "Excuse me, the deal was to finish your peas before you get your ice cream." And with dad, we now know that a father that raises children is the predominant raiser of children. The children are only 15% of the children have ADHD, whereas with mothers who raise children primarily, 30% have ADHD because they learn less well to focus on doing what they need to do. And without focusing on what they need to do before they get what they want, they don't have postponed gratification. And postponed gratification is exactly what children is the single most best predictor of children that are successful, children that can focus on doing what they must do. They learn to focus their attention, and they therefore are able to complete their homework. They're able to complete the drills to get on the football or basketball team, or to be in a play, or to be a violinist. And therefore they're successful at school, and therefore parents and teachers and their peers have respect for them, and they're the ones that are least likely, when they have postponed gratification, they're the ones that are least likely to withdraw into video game addiction or pornography addiction, and to be suicidal or depressed, or do the shooting up of schools. And so we need to let the culture know that and our wives know that there's about 10 significant differences between dad-style parenting and mom-style parenting. And both of those styles of parenting must be in checks and balance mode to have the children that turn out the best. But women can't hear and wives can't hear what men don't say and what dads don't say. So we have to take the responsibility for reading and learning what the value of what we do is, what the value of our roughhousing is, why our roughhousing does not train our children to be aggressive. It rather trains our children to be more empathetic to the other children that they're wrestling with, so that the more involved fathers are, especially the type of father that the caller was talking about, that type of characteristic, when enforced with our children, is likely to make our children more empathetic and more assertive and less aggressive, and more likely to be successful in being able to accomplish what they want to accomplish, because we're training children when they roughhouse to have a bond with the father that allows the father to the children not to be resentful when the father enforces boundaries, and for the children to for example, get themselves completely ready by a 9 o'clock bedtime, and do it enthusiastically because they want to return to more roughhousing or more time with their dad.
Absolutely. We have a caller, and I'm going to ask the caller and Dr. Farrell to keep their comments brief. I only have 2 minutes left in this segment. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Yes, as a young person, I'm 38, I consider myself young. I notice as time goes by that the younger generations more and more, when it comes to dating, they're really aggressive, and they seem to be more out for the social side of looking for a good time, not necessarily a long time, meaning looking for a one-night stand, and instead of actually a long-term relationship, healthy relationship. And it's disturbing to me as a parent, and I'll let you comment on that. Thank you.
Dr. Farrell, if you would, please, and then I'm going to have to wrap it up.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was not able to hear that question.
He basically was saying that the boys today seem to be going for a good time in a short period of time instead of trying to have a long relationship and kind of evolve into a longer time of a relationship. In other words, they're out for quick gratification instead of a long time personal meaning with the other person.
He's exactly right, and that is what boundary enforcement helps to do. It helps to train our children to know that they have to get done the things that they need to do, and before they get what they want. And so that allows children and boys in particular to have far more patience and be willing to not just want the immediate gratification of you meet a girl and you want sex with her right away, and the girl thinks you're a jerk, and then you get rejected, and then you have less sex, and you don't understand the value of a deep relationship with a girl, and therefore don't really prepare yourself for love.
Dr. Farrell, I'm going to ask you a favor, and I find you to be a very engaging personality to have on the program and very open and forthright about these issues. I'm going to ask you to come back in the near future so we can discuss again more from your book called The Boy Crisis, written by Dr. Warren Farrell. Thank you, sir. I really enjoy having you on the program.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual, and I'd be very happy to.
Thank you, sir. God bless and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A very, very interesting man, and he's one of my favorite people to have on and talk about this because, quite frankly, we do have a boy crisis in this country. And they're just between a twixt and a torn situation of what should I do, what do I not do, should I do this, am I going to get yelled at for that? I think boys today are in 10 times worse straits than they were when I was their age. And I'm going to have him back in the future. I'm not going to have anybody back in the future if I don't get the bills paid. And right now we got to have a weather forecast. Scarrows Meats, Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome, bring you the weather. Or you can go to their website and check it all out at scarrowsmeats.com. 324-7657, the number to call for the best of all kinds of meat. For your barbecue, still have time for barbecues outside. Marinated pork ribs and tri-tips and everything is delicious from Scarrows Meats. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Going to be a nice day as we hit midweek. Here's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Expecting sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice and calm, a high of 72. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 43. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 78, a light breeze out of the southwest, right around 5 miles an hour. Tomorrow night, clear skies with a low of 45. As we look ahead towards Friday, expecting sunny skies, high of 80, overnight low of 48. By Saturday, mostly sunny and 82. Then for Sunday, temperature's going to drop a little bit. Mostly sunny skies and 72, and by Monday, mostly sunny and 74. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
She does a great job on the weather. Gina, thank you very much. Brought to everybody by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don. When you coming over again? Doggone it. Bring the bratwurst. And they're great people. Give them a call, too, 324-7657. Scarrows Meats, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Wow. Great program today, and again, thanks to all my guests. I appreciate it. Dave Bigo, Brian Whitlock, Dr. Warren Farrell, thank you so much. Great program tomorrow, too. We're looking forward to it. And I want to urge you to remember to stop in to any one of the 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, they've got a great big fall tire sale going on right now. Right now, this minute, you stop in and save money. Wonderful, wonderful people. And believe me, whether you need tires for your car, your pickup, your SUV, your trailers, whatever, they've got all the different size tires, all the different tread designs on sale. Check it out today. Along with that, you know that they offer the best in brake service with highly trained brake technicians, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, but above all, service. I mean, I absolutely brag about them, but it's the truth. It's the truth. They really serve you. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you, audience, for listening, and we really do appreciate all your calls and questions. When I have a guest on here and I ask for questions, bang, you're right there, and I appreciate it. We're going to be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06 and ride the horse for 3 hours on Thursday and until 11 o'clock, right here on K-Bar 1230 a.m., and then streaming live on the internet all over the world, zebbell.com, where we always wrap the program up by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.